Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish series stars. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed and tap that like button so you never miss a moment. Today we're talking about a woman whose calm, poised image has always been her armor in public, yet who just let the world see the ache behind her smile. We're talking about Alina, and the first time she opened up about the emotional end of her relationship with Navruz. What was supposed to be a simple chat about upcoming projects turned into a deeply intimate confessional. The set lights were warm, the questions routine, but the air changed the moment his name found its way into the room. Alina arrived looking the way people always picture her, understated elegance, almost weightless grace. But grace can't hold back a tidal wave. As the cameras rolled, the interviewer asked about her new role, about scripts and schedules and premieres. She answered, focused and deliberate, her voice steady. Then the conversation drifted, the way conversations do, toward the personal. There was a long pause when Alp's name surfaced, small, barely there, but heavy enough to bend the whole moment. Alina tried to stay upright inside that silence. Her lips shaped a word, then stopped. Finally she exhaled, and you could hear the fracture. Her tone dropped and softened, carrying a tremor she could not conceal. She spoke from the part of herself that rarely leaves the dressing room, the part that learns to continue even when the heart won't. Her eyes filled before anyone noticed, and when the first tear made the journey down her cheek, she didn't wipe it away. She let it roll and told the truth she had kept folded and tucked into the safest corners of her life. Beneath the sparkle of premieres and the red carpets and the carefully planned interviews, there is a person, she said, and that person is hurting. She didn't give us scandal. She didn't offer headlines. She gave something much more disarming, reality. She spoke of nights after events when applause echoes into emptiness, of the strange way loneliness can stretch across a crowded room. She talked about learning to be alone in an apartment that still carried the memory of footsteps, about habitually setting 2 coffee cups on the counter before gently putting one back. Behind the velvet ropes and flashbulbs, she reminded us, even stars love and lose, try and fail, ache and heal. When the host finally invited the question everyone had been anticipating, Alina looked down at her hands, as if the truth was scribbled there in invisible ink. About Alp? I'm trying to move on, she said softly, but every song brings him back. Every street we walked, every scent in the air, every small detail is a doorway into what we were. I wish I could delete it, but love isn't a file you drag to the trash. It lingers. It repeats. It lives in places you don't expect. She took a steadying breath and continued. People think strong women don't cry. But strength doesn't mean never bending, never breaking. Strength is knowing how to keep breathing when your chest feels like it's caving in. It's getting up, combing your hair, going to set, being kind, and allowing the pain to be quiet instead of loud. I am not unbreakable, she said, almost whispering. I'm just learning how to be gentle with the parts of me that cracked. Within minutes of the interview airing, her words were everywhere. The clip traveled faster than anyone expected, and social media filled with a current of tenderness that rarely shows up for celebrities. It wasn't gossip that trended, it was empathy. Fans wrote beneath the video, "It really hurts, we understand you, and stay soft, Alina, your heart is safe with us." Even people who had never followed her career found themselves pausing to listen to the quiet cadences of a person speaking from the center of a wound. Those close to Alina confirmed what her eyes had already admitted, the breakup left a mark that doesn't fade with editing or makeup or time-lapse. They said she still remembers laughter like a melody that catches in the throat, that she still reaches for certain words and stops herself. In private, they say, she lets the tears come and then breathes through the hollow afterward, reminding herself that love doesn't vanish simply because a relationship does. Even in the middle of her sadness, the affection she feels for Alp has not been replaced by anger, it has only been transformed into something quieter and more complicated. And that's what struck so many people, Alina's refusal to blame or belittle. With a poise that seemed to hold the room steady, she said, "He was an important part of my life. I won't speak badly about him. Even if we aren't together now, I want peace for him. The words were simple, but the maturity they carried was not. In a world that feeds off conflict, she offered grace. In a culture that rewards chaos, she gave us restraint. Her honesty didn't just touch her fans, it reminded them that dignity can be a response to heartbreak, that tenderness can survive the end of a love story. Some loves don't end, they change, she added, not as a slogan but as a realization that had taken up residence inside her. What does it mean for love to change? It means that what used to be a daily exchange, text messages, inside jokes, shared mornings, becomes a quiet blessing released into the world. It means you stop trying to hold the river still and instead let it run, acknowledging that it watered the garden while it was here. It means holding gratitude and grief in the same palm without closing your fist. Naturally, as the interview spread, all eyes turned in one direction. How would Alp respond? Would he post a story? Would he send a carefully crafted statement? Would he correct the record or say nothing at all? The answer, at least for now, was silence. But it was a silence that didn't feel cold. Sources say he watched the interview privately, without a room full of opinions to filter it, and he was shaken by it, not out of guilt, not out of pride, but out of recognition. Sometimes it takes hearing your story told by another voice to realize how much it has weighed on you. A mutual friend offered a glimpse behind that quiet. His silence isn't indifference, the friend explained. It's respect. He still cares. He knows that words, right now, might cut where they mean to heal. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to keep your distance, to protect the parts of each other that are still raw. Silence can be a way of loving from afar. Not the romance they once knew, but a careful consideration that doesn't demand attention or applause. That doesn't mean he is unaffected. It means he is choosing stillness while the storm passes. He is, they say, the kind of man who drafts messages and never sends them, who scrolls through shared photographs and then puts the phone face down on the table. He has learned that there are feelings which do not belong to public timelines or comment sections. If he speaks, it will be because it is necessary, not because it is expected. For now, the quiet is his answer, and perhaps his apology, too. Back on set, Alina leans on the rhythms that have always saved her. Early call times, script pages inked with notes, the choreography of lights and marks and camera cues. She picks up the fragments of routine and arranges them like a mosaic, hoping the pattern will comfort her. Work is a harbor, but memory is a tide. And tides have their own schedules. A certain cologne at makeup, a song echoing through the hallway, the shape of a skyline seen from a familiar bridge, every ordinary detail can be a secret key that opens the door to the past. She said she tries to occupy herself with new characters, new scenes, new stakes. But remembering isn't a choice, it's a reaction. You don't decide that a street corner is a portal. You just find yourself stepping through it. She has learned to let the feelings move through her, to let them crest and settle without pretending they aren't there. She shows up. She does the work. And when the day ends and the set grows quiet, she allows herself to be human again, no glitter, no lines, just a young woman with a soft voice and a brave heartbeat. There was a moment during the interview when she looked straight into the camera as if speaking to one person instead of millions. The effect was startling. It felt less like a celebrity revealing and more like a friend confiding. She didn't perform sorrow, she acknowledged it. She didn't audition for sympathy, she made space for truth. And the truth is that people who seem put together are often the ones stitching themselves in secret, praying the seams will hold while they face the day with a calm that costs more than anyone knows. Fans have flooded her with letters, with thoughtful messages, with stories of their own quiet heartbreaks. Some recall their first love and the way a certain cafe still steals their breath. Others confess that they, too, believed strength meant never crying, and how wrong they were. In answering Alina with tenderness, they are, in a way, answering themselves. They are giving permission to feel, to forgive, to heal without turning bitter. And perhaps that is the most meaningful consequence of her confession. It didn't simply share her pain, it invited others to lay theirs down, too. There's a lesson in what she did not say, as well. She avoided details that could turn into gossip currency. She didn't assign blame or hint at scandal. She acknowledged the end without unraveling the privacy that once protected what they had. In a media landscape that tries to peel everything back to the bone, Alina drew a gentle line. And in doing so, she allowed what was beautiful to remain intact, even as she accepted that it was over in the form they knew. And yet, in the quiet afterward, you can imagine the private inventory both of them must be taking. The words they spoke and wished they hadn't. The apologies caught in the throat. The laughter that comes back in flashes, sudden and uninvited, like a sunbeam through a window you weren't facing. Goodbyes are rarely clean. They are more often a long series of small doors closing, tenderly, one after another, until you realize you are somewhere else entirely. Maybe that's why her final thoughts landed so heavily. Strength, she reminded us, isn't a glossy shield. It's choosing decency when anger would be easier. It's holding back a sharp sentence and replacing it with a blessing. It's waking up to the echo of a voice you loved and deciding not to harden. It's messy and brave and gentle all at once. And it looks, on some days, like a single tear traveling across a brave face under bright studio lights while the world watches and, for once, listens softly. What happens next for Alina and Alp? Perhaps nothing. Perhaps everything we need to know has already been said and already been kept quiet. Perhaps the love has taken on a new shape that lives at a respectful distance, where gratitude can breathe and hurt can heal. Perhaps the most honest ending is the one that doesn't need an exclamation point, just a period, a pause, and then a life that continues, shaped not only by what was lost, but by what was learned. For now, Alina is doing what she has always done, telling stories. Only this time, the story she told wasn't a script. It was a confession wrapped in courage. It reminded us that fame doesn't make the heart invincible, that beauty doesn't erase longing, that talent doesn't protect anyone from the quiet ache of missing someone who mattered. And in sharing that, she gave us an uncommon gift, permission to be tender in a world that keeps telling us to be tough. As the lights dimmed and the crew began to pack up cables and fold chairs, the interviewer thanked her for her honesty. She nodded, eyes rimmed with the kind of fatigue that only surfaces after you've told the truth. She stood, straightened her jacket, and smiled a small, tired smile. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added a line that lingered long after the set went silent. "I'm going to be okay," she said. "Not today, maybe. But eventually. And when I am, I hope we both are." The room exhaled with her. The segment wrapped. The clip went out into the world and returned like a tide of kindness. And somewhere beyond the set and the screen, two people found themselves in the same city under the same sky, learning how to let love change without letting it vanish. Alina poured herself into preparation for the next scene, the next script, the next day. She lined up her marks and hit her cues and kept her heart open, even when openness was the hardest choice of all. She admitted she's keeping busy with new work and fresh commitments, but time has a way of pressing its finger on the same bruise. The mind drifts. Memory rises. And then, out of nowhere, the past taps her shoulder. Sometimes on set I hear a song.